All right, hope everybody's doing okay. And this video is going to cover the Cold War, right? I'll probably do this one in two parts. Part one, we'll talk a little bit about what happens after World War II, and then in the second one, we'll talk about the Korean War. Just want to say thanks for your quizzes. Some of y'all did pretty good, and some of y'all did really, really, really well. Um, in fact, I was quite moved by some of the things that y'all wrote, so very well done on that. We'll take a look at SLO4 maybe on Friday. Um, Nothing to worry about there. Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Okay? All right. So, Cold War, post World War II. Couple different things we have to think about. First of all, Truman is president. Okay? For as when you look at FDR, right? When you look at Roosevelt, as dashing and smart and brilliant and eloquent as Roosevelt is, Truman is a farmer. Okay? He is unimaginative. He's not that book smart. He's very straightforward. He's a little bit abrasive. Um, but that's who we get. Okay? And that's who we get to lead us in the development of the world after World War II. Okay? Now, if you watch the video part two about World War II, you kind of realize, or kind of talk a little bit about how the Soviet Union wants to expand control of Europe, right? And for a couple different reasons. One, it's the nature of communism to grow and expand, right, until the whole world's taken over. But two, it's also a very practical matter, right? The Soviet Union did not want a strong Germany. They did not want a strong Western Europe. Okay? Again, this is about ideas. Who are we and what do we believe? Do we stick with communism, right? And show that communism is kind of the way to get it done? Or do we go with capitalism and show that money kind of drives the train, right? And that's the battle that we're going to see in Europe after World War II, okay? All right, now, couple different key points as we go to your textbook, okay? Let's see here. Okay, page 1216, right? Page 1216, all right? Y'all remember Churchill, right, from World War II. And this is a little bit further down. It says, on May 12, 1945, 4 days after victory in Europe, the outspoken British Prime Minister Winston Churchill sent a worried telegram to Truman. What is about to happen to Europe? An iron curtain is drawn down upon the Russian front. We do not know what's going on behind it. Okay? And that term, the Iron Curtain, that was always used to describe the Soviet Union in the western part of Europe. Okay? And very much so is about control. Okay? Now, we kind of talked about, in the last video, we talked about how after the war, they take Germany, they divide Germany up into 4 zones, right? One for Soviet Union, and then one for the other 3, United States, Great Britain, and France. Now, Berlin, the capital, is in the very middle of Germany, or I mean East Germany, and East Germany is all the way around it, okay? So you have a city that's divided up into 4 zones, and that city is completely surrounded by the Russians, okay? Now, luckily, in the American zone, the American sector, they had a great big airport. So if you could at least get to the American side, you could catch a plane out of there and escape the evil Russians and the evil Soviet Union. Okay? So Europe, and particularly Germany itself, becomes this battleground for ideas. Right? We've got to talk about that. Okay? also talked about how the Soviet Union wanted to expand into Western Europe, right? Going to Romania, going to Bulgaria, going to Hungary, and kind of install these puppet regimes and tell people what to do and kind of slap people around a little bit. In doing so, they gain control of those countries, right? And they're expanding their influence, right? Well, when you look on page 1217, you have the opposite of that, which is the idea of containment, right? We're going to contain the Russians from expanding. Now, you have this guy at the State Department, but a guy by the name of George Kennan, right? And Kennan is, quote, a brilliant diplomat and political analyst stationed at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, right? February 46, he writes the Long Telegram, in which he sketched the roots of Russian history and Soviet policy. So this is an example where you have an egghead write this great big long detailed report and then come up with this idea that we have to contain the Soviets. We have to literally contain them, right? But no one really knows what that means, right? Does that mean we oppose them economically? Does that mean we go after them in a military sense? Does that mean we go after them clandestinely with spies and all that stuff? Nobody knows, right? And that's kind of up for us as a nation to decide. Now, in Europe at the time, if you go over to page 1218, this is where we kind of talk about George C. Marshall, and the Marshall Plan. Now, just a brief reminder, Marshall was a great big famous American general. He fights in Europe. He's pretty smart, pretty intelligent guy. And he realizes that if we take Western Europe and flood Western Europe with gajillions of dollars, then we're going to have the ability to gain the upper hand, right? Again, the Cold War is about who are we and what do we believe. We're going to go with communism, we're going to go with capitalism. And Marshall, being pretty smart, realizes, here's what you do. You flood Europe with money, gajillions of dollars, right? Europeans make out pretty good, everybody gets a job, everybody becomes prosperous, and oh, by the way, American construction companies do really pretty well too, right? Now contrast that to the opposite of what the Russians want, and the Russians kind of want to crush and dominate and control everything, okay? And so this really becomes the heart of the whole matter, right? And particularly becomes the heart of the whole matter in Berlin itself, okay? You got to remember, in Berlin, if you can make it to the American side, you can catch a plane out of there. All right. So what do the Russians do? Well, the Russians, they put up a great big wall, right? Known as the Berlin Wall, right? And they wall off the city, right? And they divide it in half. And you got to remember, West Berlin is completely surrounded by East Germany, right? So as such, the Americans are completely surrounded. The only way that they can get material and goods and food in and out is via air, okay? And of course, a couple times you'll have the Russians want to flex their muscle and kind of lock Berlin down, and they'll do that. They'll shut down all ground traffic into Berlin. Well, in doing so, what do you think happens? They fire up the great big American war machine. They fly those big fat bombers in there with bags of rice and bags of money and take care of business just like we've always done, okay? So that's what it's going to come down to, right? So you've got a couple of different not competing, but they're kind of enmeshed together and they go along with one another, right? First one's going to be the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan means we flood Europe with money, we rebuild Europe, we make it vibrant, we make everybody rich, we give everybody a job, and everybody prospers. Okay, that's the Marshall Plan. The next is the Truman Doctrine, right? You're talking just like peanut butter and jelly or biscuits and gravy or whatever, the two go together, okay? Now, the Truman Doctrine, right? And this is on page 1219 of your book. I believe, Truman declared, that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressure. Okay? What does that mean? Truman's telling you, if someone is exerting pressure upon you, we will help you. Right? And although he doesn't name any names, everybody knows he's talking about Russia. Okay? So if the Russians come knocking at your door, we're going to help you. We're going to give you money, we're going to give you weapons, we're going to give you training, we're going to do everything we can to help you out so the Russians don't get strong. Okay? Now, the one other area in which we try to sort of fend off the Russians, we don't do quite so good a job, is the issue of NATO, okay? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? Now, we take a whole bunch of countries and we make a little alliance, all right? You got 12 nations, U.S., Britain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Canada, Denmark, Iceland, Italy, Norway, and Portugal. Yeah, because they're a lot of help. And then a couple others: Greece, Turkey, West Germany, etc., etc., etc. Right? The idea is, if you are a member of NATO, and the Russians pressure you, all those countries are going to come and help you. Okay. Now, NATO fails miserably. It just doesn't do the job that it's supposed to do, right? And it doesn't do the job it's supposed to do because it is a supranational organization, meaning it's an organization outside of nations. So therefore, it doesn't have assets, or it only has assets that people are willing to donate to it. Okay, and as Americans, we kind of have a hard time donating troops and effort and money and all that stuff to supranational organizations. Right? You can look at Russia stealing the Crimean Peninsula and just see how effective NATO has been. It hasn't been. NATO's just awful, not worth anything. And I wish, God, don't. I almost want to say I wish we could dissolve it because it hasn't done any good. But every egghead in the world would want to make an argument otherwise, which I don't believe. Okay. All right. So that, in a nutshell, is what the Cold War is about. Okay. And tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about Korea. But that's kind of the key thing that we've got to understand. The Cold War is about who are we, what do we believe, and what depths are we willing to go in order to maintain a peaceful, stable Europe. Okay? Now, we don't want the Soviet Union to gain control and dominate everyone, but we're also not quite ready for a hot war with them. And if anything, when you look at the idea of containment, very quickly it comes to grasp that we can't tell the Russians what to do at all. Right? We don't have that power, we don't have that ability, and rather than exert that overt influence on them, this is an idea of subtle nuances and obtaining objectives via other ways like espionage and things like that. So, all right, that's all I have for this one. Hope you guys have a great week. I'll follow up with posts, or I'll follow up on the Cold War tomorrow. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.